hear me? What? I can hear myself too. That was fantastic hearing from the New York Film Academy. That was so great. Well, first of all, thank you guys for having us all the way from America. We're so excited to be a part of the Cloud 11 family, and we're really amped about getting into making you guys some money. What? Especially those grandmas over there. Without further ado, let's get it going. Are you guys ready to turn a listener into a supporter? What? I knew it the whole time. Oh, what's up, dude? All right, so first of all, I'm going to tell you guys who I am. I'll go back. Can I do that? Yes, fantastic. My name is James Fauntleroy. I came here all the way from South Central, that's right, the ghetto on TV. And I'm really excited because I started off in my life as a single voice out of billions, and then ended up writing songs and working on music that reached literally hundreds of millions of people around the world. And I really think that's really a key example of what it means to turn a listener into a supporter. My first supporters were the creative community. When I first started off, I was working with, probably the first big artist I worked with was this guy named Chris Brown on a song called No Air with another artist named Jordan Sparks. That song was, I think, number 2. It was the first time I made a whole lots of money. And honestly, my first big supporter were people in the creative community like Chris Brown. From there, I was introduced to Rihanna. At the same time, I was meeting Justin Timberlake. Somewhere in there, I met Drake when I was working with Rihanna. I went to high school with Kendrick Lamar's manager. And I just worked with so many people that my first experience with kind of just going from somebody who makes music into somebody that does this as a profession was getting the support of the creative community. And so, like, let's see here. The point of this conversation is that a lot of people are making music that I don't know the exact statistic, but there are like an unbelievable amount of new songs coming out every single day on streaming. I think it's like some 100,000 or something like that songs that are getting tossed into a huge mesh network of endless music that people need to choose from in different languages around the world. And so I think it's really important. It's a dynamic that honestly I think we pull from film, like some of the things he was talking about The Why, for instance. But it's really important as a creative to get somebody to buy into your creativity long term. Because, oh yeah, boom, these are some guys that we really bought into their creativity long term. But it's really important to figure out the dynamic of what turns you from a disposable experience into something that people feel like is important and special and worth their time and money, especially in the digital age where time and attention actually equate to real money. So here goes some guys that were really good at turning us all into, from someone who just was a casual, person to interact with some of their ideas and themes, into really historical figures. So you guys probably know who that first guy is. That's Steve Jobs holding the iPhone. That other guy, that's not me, that's Martin Luther King sitting there next to him. And then those are the Wright brothers, actually, on the far right. So these are 3 people throughout time who had a concept and idea that required them understanding the dynamic of how to really pull somebody in to believing in what their mission or their statement was. I got this from a talk that you guys should Google. It's called How Great Leaders Inspire by Simon Sinek. Anybody seen that? What? I knew you saw it. You saw it too? Oh, nice. And he talks about these 3 and like the difference between how they communicate versus other brands. I think in the video, he talks about Apple in terms of how they communicate versus other tech companies. The example he uses is that, like, at the time, a lot of tech companies were describing their brand based on the attributes of the brand. It has this much RAM, it has this much hard drive, it has this much, etc. Versus Apple, who you guys may know their biggest campaign, or their first big campaign, was called Think Different. It really was about pulling in a certain type of person, a person that sees themselves as a creative, as somebody who just is different from other people. And it works so well that almost everybody in here probably has an iPhone. I'm being shot on iPhone right now. And I feel like there's like, I saw an Apple logo on a scooter yesterday. I seen people with tattoos. It's almost a cult. We're all in it. It's fantastic. But really that's the result of the way they communicate, the way they pulled you in and kind of created a world. I really think, like, film is such a great example even. Like I'm constantly talking about that in these talks about the value of creating a world. And I think Apple is the best example of like what that dynamic looks like. It's about like creating something that is spacious enough for people to escape from the real world, which is very huge. You know, it's been made smaller from a digital standpoint, but the world can be so huge that it's very easy to get lost in it. And so what these guys all have in common, even the Wright brothers at the end there, is that they created a world that people could really like buy into, support, and make it a part of their lives. Something that feels like they always needed it. It was always there, even before, after it existed. Martin Luther King, like what do these guys have to do with each other? If you watch that video, he really ties it together excellently. But what Martin Luther King and the iPhone have in common, the example he uses, Simon Sinek uses in the video, is about the March on Washington, the famous I Have a Dream speech, where without iPhones, which that's how we would organize a protest or something now, without iPhones, internet, or any kind of like national network, he was able to get hundreds of thousands of people to one place at one time. And the kind of way he explains it, Simon Sinek explains how you can get that many people to move is by communicating to them about their emotions and what they want. Like whenever I'm talking about music, I'm always talking about the value of creating something that's of use to the people that you're giving it to. So when everybody goes to, my favorite quote from the thing is, he talks about everyone going to this speech, and he asks how many of the people went to the speech for Martin Luther King? And it's absolutely no one. Everybody that went there went because of something they believed in, something that they wanted to see, because of a world that they agreed with, that they wanted to be a part of. The Wright brothers example, basically they were like two bicycle makers who were trying to make a plane. This is a great video. You guys got to check it out. It's so great. They were trying to make a plane. He gives an example of another guy who was like heavily funded and had like all kind of press and news, etc., and how both of them were kind of in a race to create the first airplane, and that obviously these guys were brilliant. I mean, geniuses. They changed the world creating the airplane, but without believing in what they were doing enough to convince all the people that it took for that to work, all the friends and family, the people that were just a part of the process of creating the airplane that changed all of our lives. That's how half of us got here, was on an airplane. This is just a really good example of three people in history who were able to take a small idea or a concept that, like airplanes or equality or a phone with no buttons. These are impossible to imagine things that they were able to get massive buy-in because of how well they were able to tell their story and create the world that drew so many people in. Oh my God, that's me, what? Yeah. So for 201 days, I was the biggest songwriter on earth. I just recently wrote a song with Bruno Mars and Lady Gaga called Die With a Smile. I've worked very extensively with Bruno. And oh my God, look at that. 25 songs with Justin Timberlake, 12 songs with Rihanna, 9 songs with Chris Brown, 5 songs with Beyonce. I really could spend the rest of this time talking to you guys about all the people I worked with. I'm going to spare you because you can do your Googles. But I really believe that, one, my job there is to do what I'm about to tell you about, what he just spoke about from the New York Film Academy was really relevant to just the idea of how to express your art in a way that is impactful, meaningful, pulls people in, and pays you enough for you to be able to keep doing it. This is really important. Understanding what drives fan behavior. That's why I brought up those 3 legendary figures before, is because they were all able to convince people not to do something for them, but to act in a way that they believed would benefit the individual that was following the plan, the concept, or the idea. And that's really it. I could literally just leave right now, because that's the most important thing, is understanding that what you're making, your art, whatever you're giving to the world, it may be something that, like the video we saw, was cathartic, but its value is really how it impacts the person that's experiencing it. That's absolutely the most important part. There's like specific dynamics and details to how you do that, what it looks like to build a world. Again, even Bruno and I, whenever we're talking, we're constantly talking about the dynamics of film. We talk about world building regularly, because that's just really important, not only to making a song, making a film, but also just making the world, the world itself, the runway for your listeners to get into what you're doing and spend so much time with you that they decide they want to start spending some money with you. Simon Sinek's talk really talks about and explains that the thing that drives fan behavior is their ability to identify with the product or the message that you're talking about. I think it's really that simple. Like I worked on my first album I did with Rihanna was called Rated R. I think it was her third album. And I think maybe it had a half of a hit song on it or something like that, especially in comparison to some of her really, really largely successful albums. But ever since that album, I've been collaborating with her pretty much on every project she's ever done, because from her standpoint and from the standpoint of a lot of her fans, it was one of her most serious and creative albums. So to the fans, they're thinking Rihanna is going from kind of doing pop, something that's really easily digestible, into like something that's more serious. But from my perspective, especially at that time in her life, the goal was not necessarily to make something serious. It was to give people the depth to get into her thing. So much so that there's a song on there, it's called Gangster for Life. You guys look like you would love that song. This is like a Gangster for Life crowd I'm looking at right now. That a line from that song ended up becoming the name of her fan base. There's a line that I actually stole, don't tell anybody, from a Cash Money song about Cash Money being in the Army, better yet a Navy, and her fans call it the Navy today. And I just think that's a good snapshot of like an example of the value of creating depth in your art. Even with somebody who's on such a major mainstream platform, those moments become really important versus even the most mainstream and easy to digest music, because it allows the user to connect to you in a personal way. A lot of times I think people misinterpret that as a directive to tell your personal story so specifically, when really it's important to figure out how to craft your story to fit into someone else's life. It's to create a foundation for somebody else to see themselves in what you're giving them. And I think that's just really important. Also, that's how you connect with fans on a deeper level. It's not necessarily something that's heavy. When people hear me say this, they always think it has to be like the most serious, dramatic music. My favorite example to let you know what I mean is the classic jam, Back That Ass Up. You guys know that one, right? Yeah, I can tell. I know what you got on your phone over there. Back That Ass Up is a global smash, you guys. It's classic, right? You know that song too? All around the planet Earth. And while the subject matter might not be heavy, it's the use of that song. You know what I mean? Like there are several venues in music and probably just with entertainment that are really important. The ones we talk about a lot are like family gatherings, like barbecues, there's weddings, there's the car. We talked about, like just all these different places in a human being's life that they seamlessly interact with your message. I feel like music is really important as far as that's concerned, and as far as building a world, because it's probably the most seamless way to get into somebody's mind and subconscious while they're doing something else. And so it's a really great opportunity, one, just to have a presence in their world, to kind of overlay the world you're creating on their experience, which can really be a big draw for somebody to care about what you're doing and have memories. Like that's another venue. Actually, we don't talk about that venue a lot, but it's, I think, one of the best venues for your artistic expression that have impact is memories. You know what I mean? Like you might have a prom or a breakup or some other thing that a person associates that is really going to give them an extra, bridge into your ecosystem in the world that you're making. Like I said earlier, relating to the listener with personal experience, the example I always use is somebody will be like, my dog or my aunt or something, they got sick and this happened, and then I dropped a cake on the lawn, and all these things that may be super specific to you, but without the bridge, the opportunity for someone to relate to that in a way that also feels connected to them, then you won't be able to draw them in as a supporter. And really the reason you want to do that, the reason you want to get into that, it's one, so that your art can be heard, so that you can have impact, so that you're spending your time on something. But it's a job, you guys. Like, it's really to make that money, especially today in the attention economy. You really want to get as much information as you can about how to hold people's attention, just like I'm doing with these ladies. Guys, check this out. whenever you whenever you find yourself, especially here, I've gone all around the world and I've seen like just incredible fan support in this part of the world in particular. And you can really tell all the dynamics, the pictures. I remember one time I was in Japan, for instance, and they held a competition where they had a girl group, a band that had 7 members in it, and they had a competition for the girls to win. That the way you voted was by buying a CD with the girl's picture on it. They ended up selling 100 times more CDs than they ever would have sold. And why did they do that? Why would a girl go and buy 7 copies of the same album for the same group just to show that their girl is the best girl in the group? It's because of their connection. It's almost a spiritual connection. It's almost like a cult. Cults, they make a lot of money too. So if you guys want to get into that, especially those guys, they're giving me cult leader vibes right there. I think that's just really an important dynamic to how you can turn somebody from a supporter, from a listener into a supporter. What's the next thing? Oh, look, these are all the guys I'm talking about. These are great examples too. I've worked with everybody on the screen. And everybody on here, as soon as you look at them, if anybody you recognize, that's right, baby. Anybody see on the screen, you can immediately imagine the world that these people have. You can literally look at them and you can see what it looks like, what the colors are, what the outfit is that goes with them. Each one of these guys who have made this huge mark on society and culture, there's somebody that, in the same way you can look at a Star Wars character or some other Disney character or a brand that you're familiar with or just anything that has an impact in your life, these are great examples of how you do that. I mean, Rihanna is a fantastic one, all the way to the point of becoming a billionaire from her makeup and clothes brands, from just being a Caribbean artist singing on the beach, no shoes, to having several $1 billion. I think she's an excellent example. That's somebody that everybody knows, that through her work, without her having to give keynotes or really give you a long drawn-out explanation, or even like an Apple-style explanation that draws you in and says, if you're this kind of person, whatever. It's just purely through seeing her and experiencing her music. That's the power of music, that Rihanna's albums have had the same level of impact of Apple, Martin Luther King, or any of these like really heavy things. And obviously Rihanna's music is not, I love it personally, especially I wrote so many of them. Yeah, great. But it may not be the heaviest subject material on earth, but it was so impactful that all around the globe, her brand is recognizable. The first example, maybe ever of this, but the first one I heard about, which I doubt anyone here is gonna know, maybe some of you guys will know Jimmy Buffett. Any Jimmy Buffett fans? Yeah, 2 of them. Oh wait, what? 3. Jimmy Buffett had a song called Margaritaville in the ancient times. You know that one too? He said, no, I don't know that. Margaritaville was a simple song about an imaginary place where everything is cool and fun. After the popularity of Margaritaville, which I heard this story from his manager, he told me that, well, he believed that they did the first in-store, the first time they had an artist like performing at a record store and signing autographs or whatever. He said their first product was Margaritaville mixes. They sold, you guys know about that? Margaritaville, margarita mix you can buy. Yeah, same guys. I know you guys are into that. After Margaritaville mixes, they started making margarita mixers. After margarita mixers, they started making, I think the next thing they did was a resort. Huge jump. I don't know how they got from mixer to a resort. After the resort, they had the Margaritaville cruise that goes around the world. Everybody's getting lit off of margaritas. This process I'm talking about turned this song, a single song that describes an imaginary place, into a $1 billion license. It's one of the most valuable songs in the history of man because of how well he was able to create this world, this concept and idea of escape. And it's something that, which I don't know if Rihanna knows Margaritaville, but it's something that to this day is so effective in creating these massive businesses and experiences around the planet. We're not going to do that, but I just want to say thank you guys very much. This was fantastic. I hope all you guys become billionaires. I can't wait to buy your makeup line. These ladies, they might do like handbags. I don't know. But thank you very much, everybody. And we'll see you soon.